Welcome to the Built in Georgia podcast. Hi, I'm your host, Avi Robbins, and we are bringing you closer to the people, businesses, and innovations shaping the Peach State. So sit back, get inspired, and join us for today's story, built right here in Georgia. Hi, I'm your host of the Built in Georgia podcast, and I'm happy to be here today with Tom Tjoflat, founding partner of Concord Creative, a company specializing in set construction for live television, theater, corporate events, and exhibit design. Tom was here before the big movie boom in Georgia and has built one of the most creative manufacturing businesses in town. I'm excited for you to hear his story, how the industry is evolving, and how technology impacts set design. Tom, thanks for joining us today.
It's great to be here, Avi. I appreciate it.
Yeah, awesome. Well, we've had a chance to get to know each other a little bit, but maybe you can tell the audience, a little bit about you, when you started Concord Creative, and what does your company do?
So Concord builds, we build sets for live television, theater, corporate events, and exhibit. It was founded by my wife, Cindy, and I in 2016 as a merger of our two existing companies,
Okay.
Tojo and Vellum. I started working as a freelance set builder in 2004, primarily for product photography, and then incorporated as Tojo in 2007.
That's Tojo. That was your company before.
Yeah, that was the company before. Yeah.
So you're making sets for photography. Your wife, Cindy, was doing the photography and
Yeah, art and creative direction.
okay. And then it just made sense to kind of mash them together and do something bigger.
Yeah, we were kind of together. She kind of worked underneath, and then it made sense at a certain point for us to roll apart. And then we came back together in 2016.
Okay.
Awesome. So originally we were in Tucker, and then we relocated to this location then.
Great. And what about the size of the business in terms of, you were in probably a smaller space in Tucker than you were here. Was this move primarily to expand your manufacturing capability or your...
Well, at the time we were trying to have more of a focus on product photography, I think.
Okay.
So Tojo was in about, I guess it was like 22,000 square feet.
Okay.
And then Vellum was in about 10. And we're like 35 here.
Okay.
Definitely had more shooting space for Vellum when we moved in here.
Sure.
For the photography side. And then now it's all set building. Unfortunately, the product photography is not
as big of the focus anymore.
Yeah, that's not.
When you say set design, that sounds pretty cool and exciting. You're making parts of the set for TV shows. You said it, live TV.
Yeah, live television is basically a theatrical based building.
Okay. So what are some of the more popular shows or something that people might have seen your work on?
So we do a lot of award shows.
Okay.
So we've worked on the Kennedy Center honors for the last couple of years. CMA Awards is a show that we've sent scenery to.
Okay.
For quite some time. I think 2013 was the first year. We did a lot of BET stuff initially, the Hip Hop Awards. We've also done like the ACMA, the Academy of Country Music Awards.
Okay.
CMT Awards, which is not coming back this year. We've had scenery on the Grammys once.
Yeah. All right.
And that was cool.
So that is really cool.
That was a look for Kesha.
Okay.
And that was like in 2018.
You get to meet a lot of famous people along the way, or you're the man in the background?
I'm usually not there on
No.
show day, but
Okay.
I'm usually in the background.
Awesome. Well, how did you get into? I guess even when you founded Tojo, which ultimately became this, how did you get into set design? What brought you to Georgia to do this?
Yeah, so I started doing theater in high school.
Okay.
When I was 16, I was in a magnet program, and we had to volunteer to do some community service. And one of the options was volunteering at the local community theater in Columbus, Georgia, which is where I guess I'm from.
Sure.
My family relocated to Georgia in 1990. Wow, that was a long time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It goes quick.
Yeah, it was spring break my freshman year of high school.
Okay.
And then I graduated and did some college in Columbus, a little bit of the theater department at Columbus College. Now it's Columbus State University.
Okay.
And then relocated to Atlanta in 96.
Okay. So it's that kind of...
Yeah, I played in a band with some guys and we moved up here.
Okay.
So, yeah, and I've just been working in shops ever since.
All right. You kind of have this creative juice going from early on and decided to support the industry that you kind of grew up loving, perhaps. How would you, I guess, describe the trajectory of your company or perhaps, maybe pick out a defining moment in what you built here with Concord Creative?
Yeah, for sure. I kind of started working for myself because I didn't think I could work for anybody else, and then things evolved. And I think the first defining moment definitely would have been the first shop space on Railroad Avenue in Tucker, right across the road from Matthews, kind of catty corner to Cofer Brothers, which is a lumber yard. So yeah, just, the idea of, paying rent for a business was mind blowing at the time.
Taking the plunge.
Yeah,
Were you
that
doing
was-
something before, or just kind of in your garage or makeshift? Or
Yeah, I would just kind of wherever I was working. And then I got an opportunity to be on this kind of freelance photography crew doing catalog work it was the Home Depot had, do you remember the Expo stores?
Yeah.
Yeah, it was the Expo, their catalog work.
Okay.
And working, Julie Cothran produced all that. And she was gracious enough to kind of let me set up shop in her space. And then some other opportunities came along, and I got a small space around the corner.
Okay. Yeah, took the
And
plunge.
then just, started trying to make it happen.
Yeah. Awesome.
So,
Awesome. Well, nowadays people wouldn't be surprised to know that there's Atlanta set building, companies, right, with all the movie studios that have kind of moved here to Georgia. But, probably when you got started, it was much less of a thing here. How have you seen Georgia's film industry evolve, and how has that impacted your business?
Yeah, I have a lot of friends in the film and episodic television side of the business, for sure. Initially, it didn't have a huge impact on us.
Okay.
It was, like I said, it was primarily...
Because they're doing more movies?
It was primarily a movie, feature and episodic television, right, which is a different kind of building model than what we do.
Okay.
They don't rely on shops so much. They use a construction coordinator.
They're building more permanent fixtures in their studio space?
They set up a shop on the stage,
Okay.
and they'll hire a construction coordinator and as a department head, and he'll get all the guys together, get the crew together, and set up shop right there on site. And we do a little bit of support. We'll offer routing services. We'll make parts or plasma cut, steel, some prop work along the way. Building like kind of turnkey props for different,
Okay.
but not a ton of that. It wasn't until. And I don't know if it was, I guess it kind of coincided with coming out of COVID, but a lot of the live television started relocating.
Okay.
In around 2020, I guess.
2020. Okay.
So that's when we really started doing more, game show, live television work here, and everything's kind of off right now, but it seems like it's starting to kind of ramp back up a little bit.
And are you producing mostly sets for local recordings, or what's your kind of regional expanse?
So like the live television game show stuff, that's definitely local. So like the first notable one we did would have been, Steve Harvey had a court show.
Okay.
They did a few seasons. It's not come back. I'm not sure what happened with that. We actually did a little bit of work supporting Family Feud this year.
Okay. Nice.
And there have been a few other shows. Crime Scene Kitchen relocated here a few years ago. That was one that we kind of helped out on. There have been a few others. And then, the award show work is more, regional.
Okay.
Right. Nashville, we're there a few times a year. And then Texas, DC, we've had an opportunity to work on a few projects there. A notable one was we did, a cool project was working at the White House.
Yeah.
When, Elton John was honored for his work with AIDS, fundraising.
That's
right?
great.
There was a humanitarian award that was given to him by President Biden. And we were on part of that. We built the set.
Wow.
And I was there with another guy.
Yeah, I bet.
Put an install in. So, yeah. It was cool seeing that one come together for sure.
I bet, people probably don't realize all the production that goes behind any of these.
Yeah, it's a lot.
Anything that's on television or, it's not just putting a table in a room with a camera, right? There's a lot.
There's a lot of things that go on.
Although you did offer to build a set for us today.
I know.
We've foregone that just to to keep it real. So are you doing a lot of the installs for the sets that you're building? You're putting it in a box and shipping it somewhere? Or
yeah, we build everything here and then we ship it out, and we usually send an install supervisor.
Okay.
There's always local labor that's lined up, depending on the nature of the show.
Is that what's sort of limiting your, producing a set for California? Is it the transportation cost of all the stuff?
Yeah, it's a combination of transportation costs and infrastructure. Obviously, California, Los Angeles has got a pretty, developed infrastructure at this point. So they've got several shops that they go to for a lot of the stuff that's done in and around LA and, regionally too. Same with New York. So I think we're seen as kind of the go-to shop for the Southeast. As far as, live entertainment television is concerned.
Okay. Well, that's awesome.
For the live television, we've worked on the Disney Holiday Show for the last few years.
Nice.
Which is a cool project.
Yeah.
And like I said, the CMA Awards is definitely seems to be a permanent part of our calendar and has been since, like I said, I think 2013.
Okay. What do you think?
Act looks, and then, Kennedy Center has been a good one the last couple of years.
What do you think makes you that go-to shop? What would you describe as that competitive advantage?
That's a good question. I don't know. I think, we definitely care about, what we do. And I think that comes through, especially like in the feedback I've gotten, from our clients. A lot of what we do is, temporary.
Sure.
So I think sometimes that can lead to maybe either a haste or apathy, maybe.
Okay. Maybe you're providing good service, a good product.
But, we care, which I think it comes through.
As long as you're delivering, that's one of the big things for them.
I think so. And when we definitely, I think we try to pay attention to the other departments and what they need, because it's not just a set, right? There's other elements that need to, you have to be able to load it in. You have to be able, you need to understand the needs of, the staging crew, right? And the staging supervisor and, how are they going to handle it? How heavy is it? How much is it weigh?
Sure.
Is it rigged? Does it need to hang? Is it cumbersome to put together? You can't just work in the shop. It has to work on site, right?
Yeah, no, that makes sense. It's, again, all these angles that most people
I
think
think some shops, maybe they don't think about it as much as we do. Like we model everything in 3D, like draw everything. I think other shops just build off design plates. We redraw everything and we model it, in CAD.
Or you look at it better
and try to really understand how it's going to go together and how it's going to operate.
Awesome. No, I think that makes a lot of sense. Any challenges you faced while scaling your business?
I think the biggest challenge of the business has just been the business, right?
Sure.
My background, I was just a carpenter. I wasn't like a project manager or an account executive or anything. So, I didn't have a big fat Rolodex of names to lean on.
Right.
So I think maybe that's kind of led to like the, sophomore slump maybe lasting a little longer than I would have liked it to. But also, I guess, it was a great learning experience, especially the first 10 years of being in business, right?
Yeah.
I learned a lot. Whereas somebody else might have the opportunity to do that while working for somebody else. I kind of had to do it on my own.
It was trial by fire, the typical entrepreneurial business, right? Startup. You just kind of had to put it together and figure it out along the way. What would you say brought you out of that sophomore slump then?
Everything seemed to really coalesce when we came out of COVID.
Okay.
I think, and like I said, one of the biggest challenges of the business is the timelines, getting the shows turned around. Some of them can happen really, really fast.
Okay.
And it can be daunting, and just, coming to the realization that, hey, yeah, we can do this. And it was hard for a while. I mean, one of the big challenges, I think, with the entertainment industry ramping up here is that it especially, starting about maybe 10 years ago, just getting crewing up became challenging because the movie industry sucked up pretty much anybody with a pulse.
Okay.
Right.
Getting into hiring enough people.
Yeah. Getting guys, right. Because, our workload does fluctuate, which is something we're trying to, now kind of look forward to being more proactive and keeping a steady calendar. But yeah, we definitely, fall's a really, really busy time.
The fall. Okay.
Yeah. But understanding that we could, come to the realization that, we could build the shows and get them out.
Yeah. Awesome.
But yeah, it kind of came together on COVID, I guess. That's when we really, unfortunately, because we did do product photography in-house, which was my wife's kind of side of the business.
Right.
And that, unfortunately, I guess it kind of dried up, right? We never really cultivated outside of one client.
Okay.
So as that kind of, receded, the set building really kind of, we did a variety of stuff. We did a lot, it was a mix of, we did a lot of work for Simmons Bedding Company for the first 10 to 12 years of the business.
Okay.
Product photography, and we did their showrooms, and some, retail and point of sale display design, along with, theater and a little bit of theater and television. Right.
Right.
We started really doing the live TV, I guess, around 2011, I guess. We did the Hip Hop Awards for the first time.
Okay.
But we did a lot more corporate back then too, I think.
Okay. Events
or
or photography?
Yeah, a combination of events and like trade show work.
Okay.
Pretty much anything, right?
Sure.
Anything
yeah,
we could do.
You can build it.
If we can build it. Something that needed, we would try to do it. But coming out of COVID, it really seemed to just kind of focus on just set building for, like we say, set building for television, live television and theater.
Awesome.
Along with some, starting to do some exhibit work, more like experiential, not the trade show so much, but, we had the opportunity to work on a refurb for the Dead Sea Scrolls last year.
Okay.
Last summer and fall, which was a great opportunity. And we have another project we're working on now that's going to be on display at the Atlanta airport.
Okay.
And the underground concourse in between, I guess, D and E.
Okay. I'll have to check that one out.
Yeah,
for
it's
sure.
about the history of flight. It looks like, it's a great design. It's going to be cool.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah, it's my favorite one is the jungle in between A and B or B and C.
Yeah.
It's like very peaceful in there.
Yeah, and there's also
But I'm excited to check out the new one. And in between D and E, that's definitely going to be a featured stop in my next hit to the airport.
Yeah, there's some murmuring about another exhibit for it's going to go to the Rock and Roll. I guess is it the Rock and Roll Museum?
Okay.
I guess I can talk about it. For SNL's 50th.
Okay.
Right.
Season.
They're gonna, well, because they just had the celebration.
Right.
Yeah, and then they're going to do a display at the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame.
Nice.
So nothing's, firmed up yet, but I've been talking to the design team, so the art department. So
all right, cool.
We'll see.
Yeah, that's a big one for sure.
Yeah, it could be cool.
Yeah, so you started in Tucker in a small space, moved here to
started 1,900 square feet with the dirt floor.
Yeah, dirt
water,
really.
Yeah, like water would just a ranch on you would just like. It was like a little stream that would go from the back to the front. Yeah.
So, I had a chance to tour your shop here before we recorded. Concrete floors, so that's an upgrade.
We're raised. We're above grade, which is always good.
Bigger space, and certainly you've obviously invested in technology over the years. How has that impacted your ability to kind of deliver bigger and better, sets for your customers? And what are some of the technologies that you've leaned into?
Yeah, I mean, for set building, definitely technology has had an impact. CNC routers are, the obvious one. Like when I started off as a carpenter, we had a layout deck and literally, you would do like swing arms and make templates and you would have a guy who would stand at a table all day,
Gotcha. The handheld router.
The handheld router, making parts. So, CNC routing has been huge. We have 3, I guess, conventional CNC routers, and we have 1 CNC plasma. So those have been great. For the industry in general, 3D printing is definitely taking off, I think.
Okay.
Especially with the advent of large format 3D printing.
What's the kind of thing you'd see 3D printed?
Well, for some, I think it depends on the show, but like we had a cool project for Lego Masters. It was for they would have challenges, right, on each episode. So it was for one particular challenge they did. We did this big kind of like, they made RC cars. Like they built it was like an RC base, and then they built the Legos on top of it, right? And it was like this dirt track that was, it was pretty, cool. It was super cool.
Yeah.
So it all had, obviously it was supposed to look like a huge Lego. So we 3D printed some trees that were based off of Lego trees. We scaled them up.
Okay.
And I think that we partnered with a prop maker, but he 3D printed the first one and then cast it and then, pulled it, right? The subsequent ones.
Is that a next investment for you guys here?
Possibly. I think definitely the next investment would be just another router that we really want to get.
Okay.
That's got a lathe in the middle of it that allows you to, it's got a removable table and a lathe. It's geared towards foam.
Okay. So you can
I've looked at a robotic arm, which I definitely, some of the bigger shops have the robotic arms, which are great, but it's a 5x10 bed and it allows you to take the table off and then you can put a whole billet of foam and spin it, right? So you can basically turn statues.
Yeah.
Make big, because we do have a lathe. We do have
sculptures.
a lathe attachment for one of our regular routers that we can, make custom newel posts and things like that.
Sure.
Because we've had some issues in the past with, we do a lot of work. We've been working with the Alliance Theater every spring for the last few years. They get injected with some Broadway money. We had a show last year and there were all these newel posts for the Preacher's Wife.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Stage version of the Preacher's Wife. And, we ended up having to wait like a really long time to get, just
to get the parts in.
Yeah,
so just kind of bring it in.
So now we've got one. A buddy of mine's a construction coordinator, so the lathe attachment's coming because we're turning a lot of stuff for him right now.
Okay. Awesome. So doubling down on some of that kind of sculpting work, I don't know, AI and automation is kind of a big buzzword in general today. Anything there for you guys at Concord?
It's not really something I've thought about too much at this point,
everything you're doing is so custom and kind of crafts.
Yeah, it is. Everything's purpose built, right?
Yeah.
So, we definitely, in the same ways, right?
Sure.
But it's not the same. It's never the same way.
Yeah. A CNC router in some ways is automation, right? You're doing some of that stuff.
Yeah. And there is automation, right, in the business, right? Like there is an automation side of the scenery, like moving scenery, moving people. It's not our specialty. It's kind of its own division. And there's a few companies that do that really well.
Okay.
And it's a skill set I don't personally have. And it's,
there's something to be said about focus, right?
Yeah. Right.
What, you talked about some pretty cool sets that you've built. Any like really unique ones or really challenging ones that would be interesting to talk about?
Yeah. You know, I think We Are Family. There was a game show for Fox that I think they only did one season of it. I guess it was last fall, or was it the fall before? I think it was last fall. That was a big one.
Okay.
So it was, I think, just the scale, and then along with that, there were these spherical doors that had to open and close that were pretty challenging. It's a memorable one.
Yeah.
The Daily Show came to Atlanta. We built a set for that. It was at the Tabernacle. That was a cool one.
Yeah, that is.
Just kind of because it was Atlanta focused, that was a neat one for sure.
Okay.
The award shows are always fun just because of my history from theater, because it is theater for TV. So it kind of, it's kind of connects those times in my life, I guess, from when I started doing theater, and then, building for the musicians, for the music looks is always cool to see that.
Yeah, definitely.
Kennedy Center was awesome, just being in the building, right? Having not been in a theater for a long time,
Yeah, getting back to your roots.
Yeah, a little bit.
I guess, I don't know, looking back, at kind of how you've gotten to where you've gotten, any challenges or anything you would have done differently, any lessons learned that you'd share with the community that you'd like to share, at least? I'm sure there's plenty that that you want to keep private, but we've all had those.
Yeah, I mean, I think for me, one of the defining moments was, focusing when I started focusing on the relationships, I think, more. Right.
Okay.
Because we are in a people business.
Yeah, it's a project-based work. So
it is a people business. And I think realizing that, focusing, I mean, scenery is, right, it's what we deliver, but, we work with people, right, and understanding that. And I think, when you realize that, I think that just a very definitive, I guess.
No, it makes sense. I think relationships are pretty important when you're, delivering such a custom thing, and understanding.
There's definitely, a trust there that has to be involved, right? Because it's not like, there's no, it's not like you can send it back to the shop,
It's not like you're not gonna.
It's not like a, cabinets or something.
The CNA awards
no,
for the next
there's
day.
going to be a show.
There's going to be a show up with your
there's going to be a
equipment.
show.
Yeah.
So, the truck's going to leave when it has to leave. And if you have to work all night to get it loaded, that's what you have to do, right?
Have you ever been in the truck while it's driving, painting or anything like that? Or
no, but there's
not.
Definitely been wet paint on trucks.
Okay.
There's definitely been wet paint on trucks, without a doubt.
Better than painting while driving, so I guess that's good. What does the next chapter look like for you here at Concord? Any big goals or kind of plans for the future?
I mean, I don't think we really have like big goals. I think we understand now better, what we want to do and how we do it. And I think it's just maybe more of a focus now. We're going to be in this location for definitely at least, 4 more years.
Okay.
Right. Because of the lease. And I think we're at a good place, I think, revenue wise for this space. So I think it's just, being more proactive with maybe how we try to plan our year and going after projects, and maybe trying to have a little more focus on the jobs that we do.
Okay.
We're doing more
level out some of the ups and downs in the work that you're saying.
Yeah, for sure. And we're doing a little more theater right now, which is nice.
Okay.
We've started working with Norwegian Cruise Lines.
Okay.
So we have a show going on about in Italy right now.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And we've got a few more coming up for them. And we just got contracted on one, and, it'd be cool to do maybe a little more theater in general. I mean, the TV's great, but it, could be a little nerve-wracking. The exhibits could be cool. We've done a few of those, like I mentioned. It would be nice to lean into that a little bit more.
All right. So certainly some avenues for continued expansion and focus. So it sounds.
Yeah, I think so, for sure.
Sounds certainly really exciting. Right?
Yeah.
I mean, what you're doing today is pretty cool. So
unfortunately, because of what we do, it's not like, we're spitting out widgets, so it's not like I can say, oh, well, we're going to get up. Let's produce, Q2's goal is to produce, $200,000, 200,000 more widgets or whatever it is. It's
right.
like, and I think that was the first thing, because of defining, to go back to the question about a defining moment, because of how we worked, right? Like there's a certain capacity that you're able to deal with, right, if it's just a few key people. So I feel like we're positioned now with the staff that we can definitely, produce a certain amount of work, right?
Yeah.
because scaling is a little more challenging for us, I guess.
I mean, you
that's
got
all I'm saying, right? You know,
got a fairly, and that's probably an understatement, a fairly technical crew here, right? And so you need expertise in a lot of different areas of trade, right? And then, relying on the television industry, the ups and downs, right, in what they're filming. So I think it makes a lot of sense. It's really smart to try to diversify in some other areas where you can, like you said, you wanted to look ahead and kind of plan your schedule, right? Fill in with the different types of work. That sounds great. Look forward to hearing how that goes. Yeah, maybe we can just talk about some fun Georgia things. What's your favorite product that's made here in Georgia, aside from the beautiful scenery that you're making?
I don't know. Pulled pork's really good.
I love barbecue myself.
It's good, right?
Barbecue and Diet Coke.
Chrome yellow coffee. If you haven't, right, you should try it.
Okay.
Give a plug to my buddy Kyle.
Okay.
And his wife Kelly.
The local shop here.
Yeah, they're down in the old 4th Ward.
Awesome. I'm gonna have to hit that up for sure.
Definitely do check them out if you're down there.
You're a big music guy, so if you had your own theme song or your at Mike music, what would that be?
I don't know. Probably the theme song to the greatest American hero, Believe It or Not. Right. I think that's probably fitting for me.
By the time we produce this episode, we're gonna have that as the intro music and video of Tom skipping through the doorway,
crashing into a wall as I fly across.
Yeah, that'd be great. I like that.
I don't know if you remember that show or not. I was young.
No, that's a good one. I mean, it sounds like you've done work on a lot of really awesome shows and events, but is there the one that got away, that one big event or show that you've always wanted to make a set for?
I don't know so much if there's one that got away, but it would be great. We have scenery on Broadway for the first time.
Okay.
Which is cool.
That is awesome.
It was through the Alliance. They did Water for Elephants, not last spring, but the spring before. And we partnered with them and we built all the rolling scaffoldings that are used in the show. And those made their way to Broadway.
Nice.
So yeah, we have scenery on Broadway. It would be great to purpose build something, but I know that there's, definitely already shops to kind of service that market, but it'd be super cool to do a Broadway show. Yeah, for sure. Maybe Happy Ending is another show we built we built a lot for the Alliance. It's going to open on Broadway, but they're rebuilding the whole entire set.
Okay.
I think at Hudson or one of the New York shops is rebuilding it.
Yeah. I think that's great. What would you say is the best piece of business advice you've ever received?
Somebody told me once that it's like, you might be able to do it better than every other guy on the floor, but all those guys are going to get the show out the door.
Yeah.
Right. So
teamwork, right?
Teamwork makes the dream work.
Yeah. You gotta, if you're going to scale, you can't do it all yourself. Right. So having the team behind you is really important. That's great. I think that makes a lot of sense.
Gotta have a team.
Yeah. When you think about manufacturing in Georgia, people probably think about a lot of things before set building, but I think what you've got going on here is pretty exciting, and getting to use that creative part of your brain and body is pretty awesome. So I really appreciate you coming on with us today and catching up. And for those who might want to hear more about what you do or have any questions, what's the best way for them to reach out to you?
The website's a really good start.
Okay.
We'll
put a link there in our show notes.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
ConcordCreative.com.
Yeah, www.concordcreative.com.
Perfect. Thanks again for coming on, and I look forward to hearing about great things you guys are doing in the future and looking at the next CMA awards that come on. Have a great day, Tom. Appreciate it very much.
For sure. Thanks, Avi.
Thanks for listening to the Built in Georgia podcast. I'm your host, Avi Robbins. If you've enjoyed today's story, be sure to subscribe and share it with a friend. And remember, great things are built in Georgia. See you next time.